The stream is starting.
Well, maybe just have to say, I think I'll start.
So Becky, you there? I see you unmuted. Or I unmuted you.
2 inches of rain.
Yeah. Yep. I was
Soft already.
I was out there. I was out there about a week ago. Those things are tight. You really got to stretch out the strap. You got to really stretch it out behind your head. Those are the inmate ones. It's like they.
It will, but it
They're made
won't.
down at,
I don't know where exactly, which I guess Springfield or someplace like.
It will, but it won't because, you know, need this.
see how good of an elastic they use for a bandana. Hold up that. I did, yeah, extra side star. No, I did. We don't have one. Take a torch and get it warm and stretch the rope. Well, I know it can be from back. Can't buy elastic in town either.
I know, yeah. This is true.
Yeah, that's what you guys do. Well, I suppose we should have some people that a mask so you know if the mic you got.
Yeah. Well, I think
Well, I can
as long as it's, you know, minimal time, I think, but yeah.
Cindy, do you have a idea how many ballots we've received back in the mail yet?
It's 9:01, so we should get going. I will look it up for you. No,
I was.
I'd have to go look. A fraction of what we sent out. We've sent out over 2,000.
And what was, I wanna put that on tomorrow night when they have this debate. I wanna help get the word out. What does it cost to mail them back $1?
$1.20. We actually got 3 envelopes in the mail with cash in them from people who felt bad about sending their ballots back with not enough postage.
That's nice.
It went into the general fund. Oh,
Well, I know a few. people
9:01.
Take the address off and put it in a return thing, switch the 2 around. So when the guy gets it back.
Did
he
you
has
guys
to pay
see-
postage.
If I'm not looking, you see a waiting room, person in the waiting room pop up on that screen. Would you wave to me and I'll have to let them in on my computer?
All right, it's 9 o'clock. Are we ready to start?
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, May 5th. It is our weekly meeting of the Codington County Board of Commissioners. I'll bring the meeting to order. We will say the Pledge of Allegiance, and our new Veteran Service Officer, would you mind leading us, Todd Rose, today?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation,
Indivisible, indivisible, liberty and justice for
Okay, so I'm going to do things just a little different. We do have individuals that are on the Zoom, so I'll maybe let them each pop in and say who is all on Zoom for me, please.
I am, this Myron.
Okay,
We got,
who else is?
Sarah
Peterson. Okay,
Sarah.
Sarah, Troy, Myron.
we got
Was
the
Rick- or Rick
sheriff's
still on?
office, We got the zoner.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we have,
And JT's
Right.
listening from the public opinion.
okay, JT and Brad from the Sheriff's Office. Becky, is she on?
Yeah, I see Becky on there. And I see Codington, I guess that's extension as well. I think I see 2 for them. Or
Okay.
Maybe that's Luke from zoning.
Okay. All right. So we have those individuals zooming in, and since we have two commissioners that are not present, I will do a roll call on their votes just for those two individuals. Call for public comment during the COVID-19 event. If the people from the public would like to address us during the open part of the meeting, if they would call in, and we will call them back during the open portion. And the two numbers at this point are 882-6297 and 882-6288. We also are streaming live on Codington County on YouTube.
Did one
Yes.
of those numbers change, Madam Chair? or
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not
Okay.
yet. That will be next week.
Tomorrow it'll be up to date.
Okay, so I think that's the housekeeping sort of things to take care of. Item number 3, conflict of interest. Is there any items on the agenda that is a conflict of interest for fellow commissioners?
No.
No.
Okay. Item number 4, action to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Gable, second by Van Duzen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen.
Aye.
Item number 5, action to approve the minutes of the April 28th, 2020 meeting. Is there any additions, corrections? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Gable,
Second.
second by Waterman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen.
Aye.
That motion carries also. Okay, we'll move on to monthly reports. First one is extension. Was Jody on? She sent a written report, but I don't know if
Yeah,
she
I'll
was
look at
on.
No, she said she wouldn't be here at the meeting today. We did have our promotion meeting yesterday afternoon, but she said she sent a hard copy.
Yes. So you all have an opportunity. Cindy, is there any highlights that you want to?
All South Dakota 4-H activities are suspended through at least May 31st due to the ongoing impacts of the coronavirus. The safety of the 4-H members, families, volunteers, and employees remain the highest priority. All Extension 4-H program advisors are planning virtual opportunities for youth, along with planning future programming with other advisors. Zoom is being used for most daily communications. The State 4-H office and SDSU update the 4-H advisors often, and they have weekly Zoom meetings. The most current updates for their 4-H youth are emailed or put on the Codington County 4-H Facebook page. They're currently planning a statewide South Dakota Summer Adventure Series as a new week-by-week opportunity that mixes interactive education contests and family challenges to keep youth engaged throughout the summer. Each week, they'll have a different theme. Kim and Becky continue to be very helpful at the office to keep the community updated, along with communication to 4-H members. Last week, letters were sent out to the 4-H livestock participants as their livestock ownership is due by June 1st. The Northeast Youth Program Advisors are collaborating for youth in action contests for the summer, if they need to be held virtually, and trying to plan summer events for the youth, but they're taking it day by day with the COVID-19 updates. I believe something in here, I believe the SDSU staff is still not back into the Extension Center complex, possibly through the end of May, since they are state employees, possibly. Okay.
And that is correct. The regional extension center is actually closed until the end of the month. The only thing that from our meeting last night or yesterday afternoon is that the enrollment in 4-H is a little bit behind, which would be expected, but there are about 300 students, leaders, and volunteers already enrolled. And Jody said they were sending out a reminder to get their membership in. They have till the end of this month to do that. So there's a little time left. So the enrollment might come back, but it is down just a little bit.
And I was wondering, did you ever find out for sure?
All right, somebody has a mic open, I think.
Is it 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock?
I can hear something in the background, I'm not sure.
JT, is that
Okay.
coming from you, JT?
To save this message, press
Um,
to erase this message.
I don't know, somebody not have their mic muted?
Messages in your mailbox.
Oh, I think, can everybody hear? We can.
There, I think now it's, okay, so then now we will move on to Veteran Service Office for his monthly report.
Just lean back. That's on. You can just set that in front. Yeah, just grab it and set it in front of you or.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to work for veterans of Codington County. Al Jansen's last day was the 24th of April. Peg and I are currently working split shifts to cover the office hours. I've basically been just kind of learning, getting familiar with the processes and procedures. I have new business cards. I'm getting them out to the local areas here. I requested a quote to get the change of signage on the front door. I don't have that yet. Also requested a quote to get 3 blinds for the east side of Peg's office. Gets a lot of sun in there. When I get that, I'll submit that. We had no medical trips this past month. We have had no personal appointments, but we have been processing death benefits, compensation packets, financial waivers, anything that we can do over the phone. We have snuck and got a few signatures and stuff of that nature, but trying to keep the minimal contact with the public.
Right.
Also, Codington County had a change in its state field service officer. It went back to Brett Dickerson out of Sioux Falls. I don't know the reason, it was just what they sent down to us. In the future, with the COVID and us dealing with maybe an older clientele, I don't know as far as having more cleaning, disinfecting to that area, something that kind of waiting to hear what the decision is here. Talking with Peg, I think we need to start looking at trying to develop a plan to deal with all of the veterans PII that we've accumulated over the years. From what I've been told, there's 6 to 7 folders.
PII means,
Personal information, basically.
Personal identity
okay,
information.
Okay.
Sorry.
okay,
There's several file cabinets downstairs that are all the way back, she said, probably from 1930 all the way up to current. And the majority of all the stuff that's downstairs is either the veteran is deceased and the spouse. So we just need to try to figure out what we want to do with all that. We have probably roughly 8 cabinets in our office that have, so there's a lot of stuff. So we're going to try to work with state and see what some of their guidance and what direction you guys will give us. And what
Right.
forward.
I was going to say too, what is the state recommendation for how long you need to retain?
You know, they really don't have much. When I talked to Brett about that,
Mhm.
he came across with saying, if once you have it in the system, you don't need to keep that documentation anymore. I'm still a little old school. You hate to kind of get rid of that stuff right away, but that's what computers and this age is for. But just a lot of data in there. So.
Right.
So you're saying there's no policy from the state?
None that I know of.
Department. Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm going to try to figure that out and see where we need to go with from there.
Okay.
Also to maybe look at try to develop a mobile workstation, maybe a laptop, maybe a scanner, maybe a signing pad. So when I can go out or Peg, nice to meet, but when I go out to the nursing homes, assisted living, I can deal right with the veteran right there. Some of them can't travel, some of them have limited travel.
Excuse me. What, can everybody hear Todd? You might need to, you can sit down and get close to the microphone. That might help. Just go ahead.
Basically, that was kind of it. You know, we were just kind of looking into it. I talked to the gentleman, I believe that's at Connecting Point. We just want to kind of feel this out to see. Peg, I mentioned it to Peg and she thought, man, that would have been a great thing to have over the years. So just to eliminate the traffic and when you can get the signatures right there. So that's a future thing. I'm going to keep working that. So
Okay.
are there any questions or concerns?
No, that's
Don't
good.
have
Good
any.
rundown.
Commissioner Johnson or Van Duzen, either of you have any comments or questions?
No, thank you very much for the report. Appreciate it.
No, I have nothing.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, we're barely here and you already have to give a report. That doesn't seem fair, does it? But thanks.
No,
Sounds
thanks.
like,
Congratulations.
yep, thank you. Okay, next item is monthly report from the welfare. Sarah, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
I'll pull up your slides, Sarah. Just give me
Thank you.
here. Find me.
So to catch up a little bit, what I did on the report was just put November through February. There wasn't any months where there was numbers were inconsistent, so they're fairly consistent. If you break it down month by month. 154 services were provided to 153 people. The bulk housing is 48, 34 was medical. Just working on quarterly, we get medical applications from Avera, so working with those. 19 homeless. Economic assistance is when it's multiple housing, utilities, food, different things of that nature. Utilities 13. Usually we'll see that's typical that number goes down during the winter months. Burials 12. There were a couple that were approved in that, a couple that were not Codington County residents. So we worked with the other counties on that. Some transportation, housing support, 2 ESG clients, and those cases are at this time closed out as well. We have not opened any new prescription and a miscellaneous. And then the next slide just breaks that down. Lee, if you want to just turn to the next slide. That's just how that looks in different graphing percentage wise. It's pretty consistent. And then the next slide down is the cost avoidances and costs. The significant savings that we saw were in the medical, and that's going through a lot of the medical claims. We do have one that is going to be coming through that's going to be approved that it ranges anywhere between the $10,000 to $18,000. What the holdup on that right now is getting the information of the cost from the state. We have to get what's called these DRG rates. With the state, we've been told that'll take a while on that. So that's on the homeless piece, the cost that you see is the cost of the apartment room and then the savings that we save by using that. So it kind of evens out for the most part. And then the cost of the burials. Again, on those, the ones at the savings, two were for non-residents of the county. They were in nursing homes. They were not Codington County residents. And 2 were asked to look at that were the burial took place before the county. And there was no reason. There were family members and no reason to take a look back at those. So those were not approved. Then you can take a look at the next slide that gives the referrals to other agencies, the percentage wise. And let me just, I'm going to switch over to give you the numbers, the breakdown of the number of people. For the energy assistance, there was 15. Low-income housing, there was 7 people. Department of Social Services were 7 people. ICAP was 6. Other was 2. 2 were Department of Labor, and 1 was for Beacon Center. The remainder was what the county provided for. I think I gotta switch screens.
Next one.
That, yep, go ahead and go on. Yep, you can go on to the next, to the NACO summary.
Okay, let me close this one. Oh, have to switch. Give me a second.
That's good. I gotta switch.
Sarah, Sarah, I have a question. This is Myron. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Why are we just going to, why aren't they current? That's my question. We got November through February, and this is May 5th. Why aren't they up to date? We're lagging here, what, 2 months, 3 months?
Yeah, I had started, it's a lot of times what happens is some of the things aren't paid out in the time frame to when the report is. So then the report doesn't match the actual. So it does take a couple months, but we had some times where I didn't report. So this was just a catch up report, but I do about 2 months behind for 2 reasons. A lot of them don't close out whether we've paid it or not. And about that 2 month time, it really does. If you have a report April or May 5th of April, the numbers they're not completely closed out whether we're going to pay for it or not. So that 2 month time frame from when we report gives that ability to say, yes, this burial was approved or this housing and that. So it correlates the cost and the cost avoidance a little bit better.
Sarah, can you go back over those numbers? Oh, were you done, Commissioner Johnson?
Right, I'm done.
Okay, sorry. On that last chart can you give me the numbers again, please, of the individuals?
For the
Energy-
referrals, Brenda?
The energy assistance, 37%, but then you gave the actual number of individuals.
Yeah, so the total is 40. So the energy assistance was 15 referrals. Low income housing was 7. DSS, Department of Social Services, was 7. ICAP was 6. Other was 2. Department of Labor was 2. And the Beacon Center was 1.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Not hearing any. You want to move on to your
Yes.
pledge conference report?
Were you going to say something?
No, go ahead. I got your slide up. Your
Okay.
the legislative conference stuff.
Okay, are you ready? I'm going to go fast. So the next, this is just a quick summary from that. Of course, when we came back, when we were there, COVID was kind of starting to be a big thing, and it got really big once we came back. So the next slide is, this is with the Health Steering Committee. These are the speakers, just so you can kind of get an idea of that. You can go to the who spoke, and it was about suicide. So the next slide just shows you the graphs of the suicide in the United States. We're seeing a significant increase in that. Some information I thought was pretty relevant is in 2018, it's the second leading cause of death in people from the ages of 10 to 34. And it's even rising when you get to the ages of 35 to 54. It's the 4th leading cause. So just working on that. And then the next slide is the demographics. There is a high population of veterans, tribal, rural communities, homeless, sexual minorities. Those are high disparity rates of suicide. The next slide, and this stuff just I hope you take home and just put it in your pile for further information too, is a lot of the reasons that extend beyond mental health. As you can see, relationship problems are huge, substance use, crises, and then chronic health problems. What struck me was loss of housing was one of the lowest. And so a lot of times I think we look at that as the highest. So then the next slide just shows how the increase has happened, especially in the Midwest from the past 10 years. The red is the color you do not want to see. You want to see blue. And as you look, we see less blue and more red, especially on the west side of South Dakota. So the next slide then shows you where we're at as a state, and South Dakota kind of bounces between the 5th and 6th state with the highest suicide rate in the United States. So that's pretty significant. So just so you guys, as you're looking at things in the future, navigating, that's something there. So then the next slide, we had a speaker that focused on a lot of it can be rural. A lot of that's lack of access to care, financial strain, and some isolation that can contribute to that. The next slide. What are some things that can cause real despair? Similar to everybody, mental health disorder, childhood trauma, but poverty, drug and alcohol abuse, chronic pain is significant. It's also significant in that South Dakota and a lot of places, the first line of treating that was opioids, which can then lead to opioid addictions. And our state is working on that, but that is that as well. The reason that you might see more suicides too is in the rural, there's access to lethal means, meaning more like a gun as opposed to an overdose. And then the next slide just talks, SAMHSA talks about your best resources, access to your system. A call up, if you look at the best to someone to call, that best is that local line with a follow-up, that's the 211. This information was actually forwarded to a lot of our state legislators to get to support that Senate Bill 211 to pass, or Senate Bill 2 to approve 211 statewide. So a lot of this information was very timely. Couldn't have planned that better. The next slide is just some key takeaways. Is we're kind of as a society moving towards trying to identify how we can predict better beforehand. And that's a lot of that key takeaway is how can your physician, people that have an encounter, there's an awareness. There's a method that works very well out there called the QPR method, which is question, persuade, and respond. Peer supports are effective. Mental health first aid training. And then there's an issue of connectedness that they're finding where people can go that are non-government that can bring that social connectedness. Sorry about my misspelling there. And that's where that peer support, people are more open to talking to somebody who is not, that they deem as a formal and formal government. And I can attest to that. Like if the police department drops somebody off to visit with me, they talk a lot more openly once the law enforcement has left. Nothing against law enforcement, or anything. It's just the nature that how people perceive that. And I think our law enforcement here does a wonderful job of being an advocate and friendly as well. It's just kind of that nature of probably past experiences or the formality that people have. So really talked about that. There was just a little bit about USDA has land grants for suicide prevention. I haven't looked into that any further, but I just did note that as well. So then the next slide, these next ones, I'm going to go really fast. Slide 12. Basically, I was talking about how community impacts and rural hospitals closures. The next slide is just your speakers that we had on that. And then your next slide is what the Federal Office of Rural Health Policy covers. For us, I think the biggest would be that our federally qualified clinics, which we don't have any in Codington County, but we do have in DeSmet and other areas. Those are things that rural communities are able to access. The next slide just talks about the work that's being done for rural health care, because we want to make sure people have access to health care. And you're going to see a little bit more disparity in South Dakota on West River. The next slide is about the telehealth structures and who is the main individuals and players behind that. In South Dakota, we actually have a pretty strong telehealth structure. We're far more advanced than many states, so we're very fortunate there. So then we, within our committee, also went on to next slide. Some key accomplishments in 2019 was a total repeal of the Cadillac tax. That would affect the counties and our rates of our health insurance programs. Next slide is again promoting from the HHS committee or HSC committee I sit on, is promoting mental health and substance use disorder. We still have legislation of bills, the 26 that are mentioned there, 2626 and 2628, is where inmates would not lose Medicaid while they're pre-trial. And then there's additional funding in the president's budget request to support this. So he does support this. And then there's also, I do have an extra copy of this joint task force report. So progress making there. The next slide would be the mental illness and suicide. Some of that that we changed some language. We worked on that was to be able to expand language of mental health beyond just severe mental health, because we locally experienced that as a gap. Also, we added enhancing the mental health workforce and diverting individuals from jails. One of the things that has happened from the work that's been done is rural counties that now apply for grants get extra points just for being rural. So it puts us in a better position competitive wise. I got a few grants that way just because of that. So there's recognition of rural counties. Next slide. This talks about Medicaid and Medicaid services, and the government wants to do block grants per capita, which NACO opposes. What I want for you guys to understand that I think the biggest way to explain it is if the federal government went to a block grant, it just sets your rate at where it's at today, which means, for example, if a year from now COVID comes out, we'll just use that because that's a current example, an epidemic, your state's only going to get reimbursed the amount it was set at before. So it doesn't allow for flexibility of numbers. And so there's concern that that could increase costs to states. And we know anytime you have an increased cost to state, there's less dollars to be able to provide for services, and that can trickle down to the county. So there's definitely some concerns about how that is laying out, and just kind of watching that. The next slide would be the as far as working on counties to combat addiction. And last summer, during the committee time, we added the language for some of the policies we wanted. We added meth to it, and that was because rural counties don't experience just opioids. So some of the grants that were released this last year, opportunities included that. We felt that was a better approach. So the next slide just kind of goes over the different policies, the proposed that we looked at. Of course, we had the one emergency with the COVID. Basically, the first one is more for state.
For another quarter in the
The third one I want to point out, the regulations of CBD and other cannabinoids. What we're asking for is that there be the ability to research. And the reason we want that research is so that there is a consistency in the ability to study it, to know how it works. Or like now on the market, you don't really know
before. That just went blank.
Oh, can you guys not see? Should I pause?
If you guys can hear me on Zoom, we're having the TV just went out on us.
It was too much information.
Technical difficulties, please stand by. It's got him on you can see him on the computer over there.
Well, while we're waiting, Sarah?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear you, Lee. Just a
Can't hear
second.
them at all.
Sarah, I want to thank you for your work that you've put into this. You are our local expert on this, and I appreciate what you have done. This is a lot of good information that you're bringing to us.
Charlie, we've had 662 ballots come back.
Thank you, Troy.
Really? How much did that cost us in postage so far? Just
Okay, I'll wait until everyone else.
About
critical, just being.
Estimate of
think they can hear us.
$150 in postage due. which is nothing compared to Pennington County.
How many of you mailed out?
Pennington County may have more than that in a single day. Ours is over a span of 4 days, sorry.
How many have you had
Sent out,
sent out already?
just over 2,200 through yesterday. We are
We
finally
can hear you.
caught
Can you hear me?
Maybe
We can
slowing down,
temporarily.
the request slowing down a little bit.
little bit. But there are
Brenda,
so many errors that it takes a day to catch up with all the people that forgot to send their driver's license, forgot to sign their application, forgot to sign their ballot envelope when it came back. But so far, we've been able to, we're waiting on a few, but those take a lot of time.
You have
So-
to mail those back to them then?
We offer them the opportunity to come up here and meet us at the back door and take care of it. And most of them have taken, several had said, no, please send it back. But adding voicemail to my phone system has helped immensely because our phone is so busy in the morning that we're on the phone and somebody's trying to get through, and then you can tell the next time you pick up the phone, you get the signal that you have voicemail. So for $6 a month, it was a good investment.
Oh, yeah.
So you
I'm
said,
surprised you didn't have it before.
You know, we just didn't think we needed it really, but our phone has been ringing so much that, yeah,
fix it up. How many did you say you've gotten back now? 600?
662 through yesterday.
You guys hearing?
That's out of a total of how many thousand can be,
We can
How many
hear you.
what?
how many total registered our voters do we have in this election?
Over 17,000 because the independents are allowed to vote the Democrat ballot for this election. So we have had a lot of independents and no political affiliation requests. The problem we're going to have is in September when we get the general election ballots ready. I don't know how we're going to get over 2,000 ready in less than a week to send out on the day that we're supposed to send them out. We're going to need to figure out logistics on that one.
Wow, the ripple just keeps going on.
Vote by mail, is great for reducing traffic at the poll, but for us, it's like 5 times the work of somebody coming in and voting. There's just no way around it. You have to go through so many screens to process a vote by mail ballot. And then you have to physically handle every packet, make sure you have the right ballot in there, make sure you have the right labels on it. It's very time consuming.
What you're saying is same night reporting is just about going to be not happening.
No, nope. The processing of the ballots won't be any different. It's just getting them ready to go out to the voters that takes a lot of time. No, I'll have my 4 panels of processors on election day who will go through all of those absentees. So we should be okay there.
Can you guys, can you test your mic just to see if we can hear?
Can you guys hear
We can
Myron
hear-
or Troy?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can't. For some reason, I can't hear this.
Myron's on mute.
I'm here.
I'm here.
Brenda, can you hear us? They can't hear us. Myron, you can hear me though, right?
I can hear you, Troy. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Brenda, can you
Myron.
hear us?
I can.
No.
I can hear Sarah.
No, the internet is good also.
Okay, well, that explains why they cut me off when I was giving Sarah kudos then. Sarah, I'll redo that here in a little bit.
Thank you. I didn't think they could hear us, so they must not have access right now.
We have to go get Becky's speaker again or whatever she
No, that's
brought.
not the issue.
Okay.
You guys, can you test it, Myron? Myron, can you give a thumbs up if you can hear Brenda?
Myron, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but was that?
We're
who was
back.
just talking. I couldn't hear him. Was it?
Yeah, nope.
I wasn't close to the mic. I don't know what the problem was, but we're back now.
Yeah, we're back on now.
All right.
Hopefully everybody stayed.
So talk fast, Sarah. So.
Okay.
We lost you when Troy was speaking. So Troy, let Troy finish his talk.
Well, I just, I was telling Sarah how much we appreciate her work with the NACO information that she's brought back. That's the type of information that we like to get. And, Sarah, you are the local expert on that stuff. The question that I would have for you is, with COVID-19 now, what do we anticipate our local numbers looking like here a year from now? I mean, we're going to have some issues locally. I mean, the governor came out yesterday, $18.1 million the end of March. The general revenue fund is down, and I think we're going to see those numbers hit us locally here, Sarah. But have you had a chance to talk with other county officials to see what their thoughts are?
Yes, so I am monitoring that. That's a very good question, and that's one I can't actually answer at the moment. At the moment, what I could answer, I expect our numbers, you mean for economic assistance and that type, to go down until July 31st. And that's when kind of the funding from the federal grants or from the federal governments will run out. I do have weekly calls from that NACSFA committee that I'm on to monitor what the different states are doing and where they're at and what they're seeing. I think moving forward, one of the things that we're going to see, be prepared for is, as people go back to work, what will that look like? What will their hours be? And that kind of thing, and kind of monitor that. As far as Codington County, we have some advantages. We're in a good position because we do have USDA Rural Development funding there. There is money from the state has received money for homeless and homeless prevention. It's kind of the timing. The first batch already went out, but it really doesn't quite apply to a lot of people right now. They're not gonna have that need, but down the road they will. So at this point, I think we're okay. I have to actually commend many of the businesses. When we had the 2008 recession, I was so impressed with how what they did for employees was maybe 32 hours a week, ensure that people were working, but also to kind of get through and get by. So I do have a lot of confidence in our community. I think Codington County, Watertown has a huge volunteer base. And I think there's that right now. A couple of things we're working on is the SNAP benefits and the food, to see if we can get a bit of an increase in that at the federal level. We haven't gotten that through yet. But the other thing is working with the state for individuals who are on SNAP that have maybe been disqualified because of overpayment in the past. There are some workarounds that I've learned about that we can maybe say just reduce their benefits versus not getting completely because they have that need. And I think that'll help. But it'll be interesting to see if the market floods as far as the rural development getting too full. If that happens, then we're going to need, as a county, there could be some expenses there. Utilities should be okay.
Have you seen an increase in your office at this point for assistance?
No, actually, we've had a decrease, and that's because actually, truth be told, a lot of our clients are now making more money off of that unemployment and that $600 than they were while they were working. So that's why I anticipate July 31st in August to see an uptick, and that uptick is going to be for those individuals because that $600 ends at that time, and I expect to see that uptick. The one thing with the government opening back up in the state that I have to think through is how, when people now go back to work but fewer hours, so they're going to have a decrease in income. Will they still get unemployment, or the reemployment is what they call it? If they don't, some of those people might experience hardships and might need some help with rent. But at this time, the first couple of months well, it seems like a couple months, maybe it just wasn't that long, but in the beginning is just making sure connecting people to unemployment, getting that signed up, getting the word out on the businesses. But right now, actually, there is a decline, and I expect that to stay that way until probably August, especially with the stimulus check. The federal government's done a really, really good job on that. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Is that okay if I continue?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So just wanted to just pick up on the cannabinoids and the CBD. It's not that the NACO is saying they support it, but that we need research to understand it and how it works. The one thing on my own that I've learned and stuff with cannabinoids, they can be an alternative for opioids and may actually help with that type of addiction. So the federal government, NACO wants the federal government to be able to open up how they have the tier classified so research can be done so that can be more monitored. So somebody could go buy an oil right now and it may have a lot of junk in it, a lot more TCH than we think. So just regulating that. So I just want to clarify on that. The other ones are just basically making sure that the next one, the Tort Act, Claim Act, is just making sure that if counties are participating with behavioral health treatments, that they're not being liable for the community mental health centers. There's a couple states that have lawsuits directly against them. So just a protection there. And then of course, addressing community violence is more of an urban issue that some counties are dealing with. And then obviously the COVID response came in as we were working on that emergency. So those are some resolutions and that's what NACO will be working on. The next slide is just, again, just additional priorities. Right now we know that the older adults with the nursing homes and stuff, and I know that's mostly our state, but there's just how do we access that? And then having safety net programs for individuals and where are those gaps. The next slide is the National Association of County Human Service Administrators that I sit on that board. And that's just some updates. I won't go over them because we had such a delay here. That's for your information of some proposed federal legislation and how we believe that that's going to affect people in the U.S. Do want to clarify with the TANF, the 10% cut proposed is there's a lot of flexibility with TANF that allows the states to use that maybe to cover gaps. And the government saying, well, we don't know what you're using that for, so we think we should cut it. But that might be, for example, on some of the work training, like to be able to get bus tickets or uniforms or clothing that you need. So that will affect if that a lot of people or getting people back to work, but it has a lot of flexibility and the federal government isn't so sure about that. One thing to note, and I think we've seen this too, is that human services are experiencing that they've made hot progress with housing the homeless people, but right now the current population that they can't get housed are the most difficult. And that's why you see an increase a lot of times in the cost per person. The next slide was just a county that uses the arts to heal trauma. That was pretty interesting, and there is no cost to it. And the county that had utilized it had 100% success rate on people. So that was interesting there. Something nugget to kind of have in our mind to consider moving forward. The next is the USD real grants. My key takeaway from that was if you have a project and you're wondering if it would qualify, contact the state representative. And so the next couple slides is just kind of a list of the different things that they provide. So I would say anytime you're looking at building a new building or a grant for TA assistance, I would give them a look. They actually do a lot more than we realize. And so then we can, I gave you guys a list on, can go ahead and go down the next two slides, Lee. There's the list of different websites that you can look for and stuff. And they're usually pretty consistent. So if it's in your planning that you want something and you see that the deadline is soon, usually it will be down the next year. One thing they did say, a lot of times some of these grants aren't accessed by the rural communities. And so they re-up and stuff. So the next slide was breaking down the complexity of homelessness. And again, what the federal government is seeing and wanting answers for is they're seeing higher cost in the homeless but yet not making further progress. And a lot of us are saying, well, the people that are easier to house have been housed. It's the more chronic or the more difficult. And so these were some key takeaways. that we learned from that work across the board. And then the last slide, we had the Capitol Hill briefing about health and justice and the look inside county jails. And then the final slide, of course, you guys maybe already know some of the speakers that we had for our general sessions was Ben Carson, the U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. We had General Colonel Powell. He was the former U.S. Secretary of State, and he does have a development program that is available with scholarships for any county employees. So I would encourage you guys to look at that. We got a free copy of his book as well. And then, of course, the famous speaker of all, we actually had the ability to have President Donald Trump speak. I think the one thing that he was surprised by when he was talking about jails and not using jails as mental health facilities, there was a standing ovation for that, and he said he wouldn't have expected that. So that spoke volumes to him on that. So it was a very good conference. It was a little different because, you know, as stuff with COVID was taking place, but it was very good. So that's all I have.
Okay.
That
Thank
was a
you.
good rundown in the conference.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Next.
Sarah.
We will move on to item number 7, action to award a contract for food services in the detention center.
Yeah, I can start that. I think the sheriff, are you on?
Yes, I'm on, and Matt's here as well, so.
Should have the sheriff start off, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Brad, you want to do a little explanation first to give an
Sure.
update?
Sure can. We're looking at awarding an RFP, or we did an RFP, I guess, for food service in the jail. We've done a little homework over this in the last 6-7 months, and looking at consolidated correctional food service here. Got some of their pricing, both Kelwell and Consolidated Correctional Food Service sent in their RFPs. We reviewed them both. Lee's reviewed them. Chief Correctional Officer Blackwelder has reviewed them, as well as myself here. I would kind of like to go with Consolidated Correctional Food Service after looking at and calling all the people that they're working with right now, and had good reviews from everybody that we've called, all their references. And also we did a little bit of number crunching here, and if we were to go with them last year, we would have saved around $30,000 in our food service program. So I kind of like the numbers that they pushed in, and so yeah.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal of Consolidated. Is it Consolidated Correctional Food Services? Did I get the name right?
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion to accept that proposal.
Okay, we have a motion to accept. Do I have a second to that motion? I'll second that motion. Further discussion. Lee, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just I looked at both proposals, and basically the idea is, we're dealing with people that can order. I think what they achieve most of their cost savings by ordering what they do, the food in bulk. This particular proposal is from a company that's in Iowa, so they're Midwestern, so a lot of their clients are in Minnesota. So that was also a nice appealing thing. The other company had a good proposal as well, but they're from, I want to say either North Carolina or Georgia, if I'm recalling correctly. So
some of the things that I really kind of like on this is, we have a dietitian that'll review the meal plans. Each inmate will get their 2,850 calories. They have liability, they have their insurance. We have redundancy. They'll provide 1.5 employees to help staff the kitchen on vacations and weekends. And we have the kosher meals. We have the things called dead man trays. They actually save a tray for each meal, and they can go back and see if there's any food poisoning or anything. If anything like that has been reported, we can test those. So there's a lot of good things that come with this program. So
Question, what's the cost per meal of breakfast, dinner, and supper broken down?
Got that right here. It kind of goes on, it depends on the number of inmates that you have. So it kind of goes by 35 to 44, and then 45 to 54. So it's broke down by about 10 inmates. And it ranges anywhere from $3.12 to $1.95 per inmate meal, depending on where we're sitting for numbers. Like say last year, if we were to do that, we were in about the $2.29 era, somewhere in there per meal. And from what we figured, we were at about $2.99 last year for food. So that would have saved us around $31,000.
Did you say, Brad, that they're going to supply the help for this program?
They're going to supply 1.5 employees to for this program. We are going to keep Marcy, our cook, right now. We're going to keep her on staff. One of the reasons for that is she's a county employee, and then if the program doesn't work out, that's something that we can go back to cooking in-house still. But she would still listen and have to abide by the rules and everything set forth by CCF here.
What's the length of this RFP?
The length as in?
A duration?
You mean
Of the
potential-
contract.
potential
Months,
contract.
1 month?
No,
If it doesn't work out, when can we get out of it? How long a period of time till we can
yeah,
vacate the program?
If I remember correctly, we can get out within 30 days, just similar to most contracts. If it's something that's not working between us and them, give them a 30-day notice. If I remember correctly, you can get out of that.
so then the other thing, yeah, but I think to answer the other part of Commissioner Waterman's question, I believe the CCF one was a 3-year initial contract, if I'm not mistaken. So by the way, we emailed, the proposals were so long, we emailed them to the other commissioners, so we don't want to print up all those, all those pages. So did I answer that correctly, Sheriff?
Yes, yes.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions? We do have a motion and a second. Are we ready to vote? All in favor say aye to award CCF the food service contract.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Johnson?
I'm sorry, I was on
Commissioner Van Duzen?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. We'll move on to item number 8, action to approve temporary election clerical in the auditor's office, fill a clerical vacancy in the sheriff's office, and hire a full-time maintenance position. Who wants to start?
I can start. Mine is short. Currently, the only way we've gotten through is by borrowing employees from other offices. I just want the flexibility so that if that doesn't work, I have the flexibility to hire a part-time clerk, which I've normally just done during the general election period, but this is unprecedented for a primary election. So it would just be a temporary employee to help during the election cycle to help us get caught up, help us work absentees so we can get caught up on our normal work,
All right.
which is suffering.
Where, do you have somebody in mind, or would this be?
No,
going
I
through a
don't, and I don't-
temporary agency like we did before?
No, I would not go through a temporary agency. I would hire somebody that I'm familiar with. And like I said, I don't know that I'm gonna need it. Just depends on this week and how the applications come in and how we're keeping up, paying the bills, doing payroll, doing the tax apportioning. If I don't need it, I won't use it because I prefer to use my own staff who are familiar with the process and the ballots and but I would just like the flexibility to have that authority.
I'll make a motion to approve that request.
Okay,
I'll second it. I'll second it.
we have a motion by Van Duzen, second by Johnson. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of allowing Cindy for a temporary election worker, vote aye.
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 Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Okay, so next we want to do, Brad, you want to go ask or fill us in on what your intentions are.
Sure. I'd like to open up to hire a person I recently had a vacancy for a clerical position. It's actually a civil criminal support coordinator. They work on warrants and they receptionist at my office here. So just asking to fill that position.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Gable. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Got a second by Van Duzen. Any further discussion? This is a full-time position, Brad?
This is a full-time position that we currently had for the last 12 years.
Okay. Very
So
good.
this is a replacement. My hearing's a little bad this morning.
It's not a new
Yep.
F.
No.
This is not a new
Yes,
hire, not an
it is
ad hire.
not a new full-time employee. This is one that we normally have had.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. All right, Steve, full-time maintenance position.
Well, I'm asking for, this is on, right? I'm asking for a full-time maintenance position. I have a gentleman that will probably be out for till the 1st of July due to an injury. Plus, when he returns, I do have a gentleman that is at the extension building that will be activated in the military for a year. So I am looking at to fill for somebody here at the courthouse and then go to the extension building from that point after the year. I will probably have him go and train in July a little bit because we have the potentially, if it continues, the 4-H achievement days and stuff like that. So this is, I guess, what I'm requesting.
So is
Any
it
question?
is it a temporary full-time?
Well,
Are they going to have benefits or what?
That's one thing that Terry and I discussed. We should turn around, probably have it full-time position. and
Okay.
stuff like that. So
So the employee, will they be terminated when we have full staff again? I'm just asking
Yep.
the tough questions.
That is a tough question. I am not certain. I don't know if by then if somebody retires. If not, I guess we'll have to figure out a position for him or else we'll have to probably let him go, I guess, basically.
So would it be better to have temporary full-time rather than?
Probably with the anticipation for having full benefits, I guess, basically.
Long-term,
Yeah.
temporary with benefits. If this is another new one.
Yes, it is.
How's 6 months full-time with benefits subject to renewal? What was that? So you make a one-year job subject to renewal.
Right, I guess that would sound all right.
Just be a full-time one year full-time job
Right,
with benefits, subject to renewal by the commission.
At the end of the year or 6 months?
At the end of the year.
Terry?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you hire somebody full-time.
You can actually take the mic out of the thing there.
Hire somebody full-time, there's not a contract, so their employment is not guaranteed by any type of a contract. So you could end it at any time, as long as they recognize and it's explained to them as to what this position is.
Instead of full-time, would we say 40 hours a week?
Well, it'd be one of the same.
Yeah, I understand. It's just terminology.
Yeah,
Would it be better to come back to this one next week, or is this, do we need to get this thing done right?
That's fine.
Okay, it might be.
yeah, I
iron-
think we better put a little thought into this thing.
Right.
Or if we're gonna do just temporary, that,
Yes.
okay. All right, so as long as you can wait, we'll put that back on the agenda for next week then and get that all ironed out.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, thanks. All right, so we're done with number 8. Let's move on to number 9, action to set an end date for the temporary clerical position in the welfare office. I don't know who wants to speak on that. I guess, I think in discussion, it will be this Friday, May 8th is when that temporary clerical position will end. And then Monday, May 11th, our welfare director will be back in office, and the office will be Monday through Friday, 8 to 4.
I had a conversation with Sarah, and those were the dates that we proposed at that time, and Sarah agreed to during my conversation.
Okay, someone want to make a
I'll make a
motion?
motion to do that too.
This is Sarah. I have a question. I did ask, the temporary person does not work on Fridays. And I just asked her to come in Monday for just a quick, to get her, the final for just less like an hour. Is that okay on the 11th? And then
Why can't she come in on Friday?
she hadn't been coming on Friday. She hadn't been working Fridays, Monday through Thursday. And so I can talk to her and change that if that's what the board wants.
I think, yeah, might as well just let her come in for that hour on Friday rather than waiting till Monday. It should make no difference, I guess.
And previously we had the office 9 to 5. Are you wanting to switch that to 8 to 4?
Yeah, I think we'll go 8 to 4.
I'm going to need a clarification on the motion also.
Yeah, I got, so I make a motion to, as Commissioner Hanton stated that so this is basically the last week for the temporary clerical position. So the last day would be the May the 8th. So is that what you need for the motion? So that's the motion.
Okay.
And also then the welfare director back in office on Monday, May 11th. That's
We're gonna
also
change her hours now from 8 to 4, from a 9 to 5, Brenda?
I guess I just think just to try to get it more in line with what our other offices, they all open up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and obviously then hers is done an hour earlier in the afternoon. I guess it's just less confusion for the general public. A lot of people don't really know when that office is open. I've heard that several times.
The clientele we experienced, the reason we did the 9 was the clientele we work with, that 5 o'clock, 4 to 5 is a little more valuable to them. I'll do whatever you guys want, but what we experience, the clientele normally, the 8 o'clock aren't actually either available or up and stuff. And so the value to the afternoon was more important. But I'm like I said, I'll do whatever you guys want, but I just want you to be aware of that.
So, I mean, this motion, the agenda item deals with the temporary clerical position, but as far as, so should we maybe discuss that first?
Under the COVID, we can do it down there. That's fine. Okay, so mainly it is then, your motion is?
To set an end date of May, the last day is May the 8th for the temporary clerical position in the welfare office.
Okay. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson. Any other discussion on that?
This is strictly on cutting the day or setting the date at May 8th, right?
For
Not
the
hours of operation.
temporary, this is just for the temporary help will be done. We'll discuss the other under the COVID. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to item number 10 right now. Action to declare the GEN 01580 floor scrubber surplus to be traded. And Steve was up here last week going to do a replacement. Now we're going to get rid of the old one.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Johnson, second by Gable. Steve, anything you want to add?
I'll add to this. Last week, I know I gave the proposal, I believe was 17,000 or something, 18 something. I have to make a correction on that. That was without trade-in. Trade-in is 15,000 and subtotal of 15 something. So we had about a $2,500 trade-in value.
They're giving us 2,500 for the trade-in. Okay. All right.
Excellent.
All right, getting a little more out of it than you thought. That's always good.
Okay.
So what's the final number for the new one? Say that again.
Cindy will get it in just a moment here.
$15,925.
Thank you.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item number 11, action to approve the FY 2021 WIC agreement. And we usually do this every year, but Cindy, you want to touch on anything that has changed?
I don't believe anything has changed. The dollar amount is $14,533 that we anticipate to receive in reimbursement through WIC. And it's based on caseload, so this may go up. If they have a higher caseload, we will get reimbursed more. The county does budget for at least half of that position right now. So, and it is a
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Johnson, second by Waterman. Any other discussion? Do you want to finish what you were saying?
Nope,
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, if we're ready to vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Okay, Rick, are you still there? We're on
Yes, I
item
am.
number 12, action to approve those easements for County Road 75 project. Do
This
we
is-
want to do them separately or can they all be done together?
They can be done in one motion if
Okay.
that's okay with Rick.
All right, you go ahead and explain, Rick.
These are just easements on the property from the landowner, so we can do the bank stabilization on County Road 75.
All right.
Is that the Willow Creek?
Yep, the one
Project?
that he talked about last week.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
motion by Gable, second by Waterman. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Johnson or Van Duzen?
I have a question. We have two of them. I have two hard copies here. Are they both for the same, they're
Yes,
both
they
for
are.
the same project? Okay, yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
they
I'm
are.
fine. Thank you. I got
And,
it.
and Rick, is this at any cost to the county?
No,
I didn't see anything. One's a perpetual and one's temporary, and we are not paying anything. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you, Rick.
thank you.
Item number, you don't have anything else? Any want to do a quick little update how road situations are going out there or?
Well, everything now with this 2 inches of rain is extremely soft. It was soft to begin with. Hopefully this will help push some of the frost out. Some of the blade guys have said that there's a few spots that are starting to harden up a little bit, but they're gonna get worse before they get better now with this rain. So I had a picture of a truck that was stuck in the middle of a township road. Apparently he'd been on our roads to get to this township road, and the sheriff's department and the highway patrolman were there. They got him out, and the truck is sitting there because he was overloaded or something. So I will forward a picture of it to you guys when I get a chance.
All right, thanks. Probably,
Rick, has there been any progress on our claim with the company for the bridge?
No, got a call into Pier to get a copy of the accident report. And I
Okay.
have not received that yet, so I'm
Okay.
still working on that.
all right, thanks for the update. Hopefully the rain helps. If it does anything, helps our road situation out.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 13, action to approve a fireworks discharge permit. Well, we have several of them and they typically do this, that they just do them all. Well, there's just two. Do them at once.
It's actually just one. One's a rain date.
Oh, that's right. I did see
Yeah,
that.
yep.
Just in case.
So,
Okay.
yeah. This is kind of an annual one from Jared Burke, and it'll be held at 46345 166th Street, July 11th, for approximately 2 hours from 7, well, they say from 7:30 to 11:30, but, it's the approximate start time or end time, depending on when they started.
All
I'll
right,
make a motion to approve.
got a motion by Gable. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Waterman. Any discussion?
So the backup date is
The next
the
day.
12th. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
I
seeing
don't know if we need to mention this, but the reports are that we are looking at a dry summer. So in the event we have a burn ban on, we would have to rescind this.
Yep. that. Subject to a burn ban.
Yeah, we'll just have to monitor it, I believe.
Yep. We'll have to keep this on the radar,
Right.
jot it down on a calendar that if we are in a burn ban, then yes,
And-
they will
and-
not be allowed.
He's very responsible with his fireworks. It has been,
Watching.
so, yeah.
Should be good.
Okay.
But just FYI. Okay, thanks. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen,
Aye.
any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item number 14, action to issue a RFP for the Human Resource and Labor Negotiations Services. Terry Satterly currently holds that position, and unfortunately, I think he wants to get out of this. So now we got to look for someone new to fill his spot. Lee put together this RFP. Lee, did you want to highlight
Yeah, I
a
just,
few things?
yeah, this is very similar to when we thought Terry was going to retire before. This is very similar to what we issued. So it's so mostly just changing the dates, but essentially divides up all the HR stuff HR stuff plus labor negotiation. And in this RFP, we'd be willing to either take one agency or one person that could do both like Terry did, or if we want to get different, there's also the option for people to bid on one of those services, just the labor negotiation and not the HR, or the HR and not the labor negotiation. So hopefully we'll get some good proposals. I think since, as I recall, Terry's planned retirement date is July 1st, right? Or is it the July? Yeah, so we need
July
to
31st?
So I'm afraid it's July 1st. So we need to get moving on this one. So I'll have to fill in the dates when we actually post this online and get it in the paper, but we're looking at a mid-June due date for these proposals. So, and that would give us hopefully enough time to look them over and hopefully award just before Terry departs.
He'll
So,
be able to be part of that process and
Yeah.
help us.
yeah,
go
so we
through
we
that.
need to get moving on this one. So I'd make a motion that we issue this request for proposals.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Van Duzen?
No, I'm okay with it. I had a chance to read it, and review it. Looks like it's pretty thorough. I guess my only question is, Terry, are you there?
Yes, he is.
When he took the job, which was before any of us were there, did he respond to an RFP, or was it just a regular hire? This way we can separate them. I understand. Is that the main advantage of issuing an RFP? Because I'm wondering how many people out there are going to understand an RFP. Will everybody understand what we're trying to do?
Yeah. If I think I can clarify, so if Terry's contract now is basically a service contract, correct? I mean, or is Terry an employee right now?
No,
It's no.
So it's
He's
basically, so it's
contracted.
kind of the same thing. So if we were to happen to meet another Terry,
He's
under
an
the law-
independent contractor.
Yeah, so essentially that's what this is doing. It's just, since we're going about it with an RFP, I mean, I suppose if we happen to get a proposal, whether it's verbal or in writing without doing an RFP, that'd be fine too. But that's, as I understand, I wasn't here when Terry joined the team, but I'm guessing that you made some kind of proposal, whether it was verbal or in writing, and said, well, somebody had to say something. Okay,
the state's
so-
attorney knew Terry and he thought he would be a good fit for the position,
Sounds
and
like a
that's how it
verbal-
happened.
So that's kind of a verbal proposal for a service agreement. I mean, so that, and that's, and the state law allows you to do that. It's just, this is
And I
just a
believe
bit
you
formalized.
Started out as a union negotiator, didn't you? And then the human services kind of,
Yeah, so this is just a more formalized way of,
Evolved.
this is the formalized way of doing the same thing.
Yes.
You
I
know.
understand that, Lee, and just to add that to that, what Myron said made me think a little bit. it might confuse, I'm not saying it would, but it might confuse some people on the RFP side of it. Not everybody understands that stuff. And maybe if we listed it the other way, it might be more inclusive or bring on somebody else on board that
What?
would be more, would be as qualified.
What other way do you mean?
Well, make it a service contract or make it.
Well, that's what this is.
This is what
RFP
it
for. That's
is.
what it would be.
It's
That's
the
what it would,
RFP that,
it's a request. I mean, that's what it would turn into, as a service contract.
I understand that.
So, well, if if we know people, we can forward them, let me know. We can forward the RFP, but,
Does this get
This is-
listed at job service as well? I mean, can we do something like this? Put it on there?
RFP, no.
I didn't know if we could just
It's
put it
an
in
ad
there.
the newspaper,
Yeah.
basically.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's appropriate. I don't think we want to take on a full hire for this particular
No.
position. I think we just need to kind of, Terry set a good precedent for us, and this is kind of doing the same thing. It's just we're giving ourselves the option of having maybe two separate contracts, one for labor negotiation, one for HR. So,
People who are in this business will understand it.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, they'll definitely, RFPs, I'll definitely understand.
Yeah.
What that means, so.
Becky, you got a tough job ahead of you.
So we have basically.
Find another Terry for us.
Basically, it can be together,
Yeah,
be separate, so they possibly three different ways.
yeah, you can have it together or, separate. So.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Are we ready to vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen,
Aye.
any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item number 15, discussion possible action on COVID-19 practices and procedures. I think we have several things to discuss. One being,
Let me pull up you're looking at the plan. Okay, let me pull that up.
Yep.
Give me a second.
we have kind of an idea of a county back to new normal plan. We have two different phases and then to the new normal. All of you commissioners were emailed that out yesterday.
Let me get it up on the screen here.
Hopefully you had an opportunity to look it over. We're trying to figure out when that time comes to open the building to the public, that we have measures in place before that happens.
Has any of the other department heads or elected officials seen this?
No, we thought we'd discuss it amongst the commissioners first
Okay.
in case there's some changes, and then we definitely plan to.
Before you take action on it? Okay.
Well, can I?
Go ahead.
Okay, so, I think the big thing obviously is that the governor issued the back to normal plan. And a couple things to note about that. I mean, I can pull up the executive order, but I don't think we really need to. It went with an executive order 2020-20, and it said basically we're going to do the new normal plan, and that in that executive order it says we need to be looking at that plan constantly online because it's going to get updated. So whatever we do, this is just a new normal plan, because I just put new in there because a few things will be different once we get back to our normal way of doing things. But to outline the phases here, and hopefully the other commissioners have had a chance to take a look at this. The top level there talks about the implementation criteria. So in phase one, that's pretty close to the way we are now with the courthouse closed, but adding in some allowing for pre-coordination, such as the early voting. And I know in case by case, the clerk of court, so they might go out and meet somebody. So just kind of recognizing that, but the big thing on that one is getting all the stuff on order that we need, such as the plexiglass and any other PPE we might need in order to get ready to open up the courthouse in phase two, which will hopefully be relatively soon, in my view. And so we this is more based on criteria as opposed to trying to set a date. So that's kind of the overall plan. Then phase two would be open up the courthouse, but then we have all those measures in place, such as the plexiglass at the counters. And then we're still working on the physical distancing and the social distancing within the courthouse. That's basically phase two in a nutshell. And the criteria to implement that the biggie is to have all that stuff in place, to have all the stuff that we put on order and get it in place and ready to go. And that everybody knows how to do that. And then there may be some additional guidance from the state on, you know, what a downward trend should look like at that time. So that's kind of leaving room for the governor to update her back to normal plan. And then phase 3, or the new normal, would just be pretty much normal, but the key differences there would be trying to just do some good practice kind of social distancing, kind of like the sneeze guard on a salad bar. You'd still probably want to leave some of the plexiglass up in many of the offices. You probably still want to encourage a 6-foot standoff. And that some of that's just a privacy thing, but also good practice for health. And then leaving in place some of the things that turned out to be useful and convenient, such as the availability of virtual streaming, encouraging the public to still do things without having to come to the courthouse, because that's, I think, for many people, a convenience. So that's kind of the overview of what this was. And this was, if you're wondering who was in this discussion, Commissioner Hanton, she's on the task force. I was there, I'm the backup. And then we had the sheriff, Jamie Torstenson, and Steve Mollengrath. So if you're wondering who was doing that. But this is meant to be kind of a living thing that we're probably going to have to be constantly updating as we hear things from the state, or as we get some of our supplies ordered in. So that was basically the idea. And if we want to do this, we could just simply, you know, similar to the way the governor did an executive order, we could just pass a resolution to say we're going to do this back to new normal plan, and then refer to it as though we update it. So.
Could I ask a question?
Yep.
In phase 2, under court operations, is that do we have the authority to?
No, that's done in coordination by talking to
Okay.
the court. So, and we
And we
have,
have the judge and the
I
courts here.
I
So
wasn't sure if we were actually telling the courts.
no,
Okay.
that's just I think this will become a
This is
public
what we would
document.
like to see.
Yes, kind of well, we're going to agree with them, but this will become a public document, and
Okay.
and you know, the courthouse, a lot of the traffic is from the court, so it's good for the public to be aware of. I mean, we can take it out. I mean, there's nothing to.
Well, I just don't know our authority.
No, we don't
No.
have.
Over
That has to be
courts.
coordinated.
Okay.
Yeah.
and that's going to be, you know, their call, and
Okay.
we just kind of put it down as suggestions as we were going through this, things we might think
Okay.
might benefit everyone in the long run.
Yesterday, I understand.
If you want to come up here and use the microphone, that'd be great. Judge Spears will like to make a comment,
You can pull it out of the, yeah.
and then we can pass it around for other
There you go.
individuals too that would like to speak on this.
All right, I had a hearing cancel, and so I thought I'd show up and listen into this meeting this morning.
Mhm.
Because as I understand it, Commissioner Gable came to the clerk of court's office yesterday afternoon and spoke with our our chief clerk of court, Connie Hartley. And the question, as I understand it, that the commission had was what was the circuit court's position on resuming jury trials? And I'm here to answer that question this morning. I'm in no hurry to restart or reinstate jury trials. The unified judicial system of the state of South Dakota and presiding Judge Greg Stoltenberg of the 3rd Judicial Circuit, we had a meeting about 3 weeks ago, and it's up to the individual judges. And I spoke yesterday afternoon by phone with the state's attorney, Rebecca Morlock-Reeves. And as jury trials pertain to felony proceedings, even in the lowest grade felonies, we would have to impanel about 60 people. That's because in the lower grade felonies, each side, criminal defense and the prosecution, get 12 grand jury challenges. And then during the jury selection process, there will be several other people that have a conflict, know the state witnesses or know the parties to a criminal case. And even in more serious felonies, such as A and B classification felonies, the peremptory challenges are 20 on each side. So in that particular case, for a homicide, a kidnapping, first-degree rape, for example, we would have to impanel in a town this size about 80 to 100 people. There's no way with the big courtroom upstairs and the modern revised courtroom that we moved into last March, or that'd be March in 2019, there's no way we can adhere to social distancing, the crowds, and then anything else that might be going on in this courtroom, or this courthouse at the same time, such as absentee voting. So that's our position on the resumption of jury trials in either felony or criminal cases. I just don't think in the interest of public safety, now is the right time to do so. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it did, Judge. Just to kind of, so, you know, we could just leave the court operations off this particular document, or we could just put it on there for people's reference. But basically what we said is, you know, the clerk of courts they're fully staffed. I know you're social distancing within your office. And then right now, which is kind of more or less what phase one would be in this plan, it says, only essential parties present in the court. I know you're using some virtual technology when you can. And then
I've had dozens of sentencing hearings conducted by Zoom and other electronic media. In fact, I had a child custody hearing in a civil case a week ago this last Friday. It's working. It's working very well. There are some problems, but they're minimal.
Yeah, and then when we start to open the courthouse back up, which was phase two on this particular thing, under court operations says, I just added in a thing, no jury, and this is after talking to the clerk of courts, no jury trials until at least the end of May. You could put that there, or we could just say no, I mean, or do you want to wait till we're pretty much back at the new normal? Just say no, we just say no jury trial.
Right now, as I stand before this commission, I'm going to say no jury trials for the foreseeable future. I don't want to be pinned down on the date. It's up to the circuit court judge as to when the local circuit court judge in each county as to when jury trial
I just say
resume.
pull jury trials off because we don't really know. Just take it off.
I'll just say no jury trials and then cross out that until.
And this is a moving target. It changes, if not weekly, daily.
Absolutely.
As I stand here this morning, that's my position as the senior circuit court judge in this circuit.
So even under the one, take that, encourage jurors, just take that last bullet off.
Yeah, actually, there's an updated one I emailed out. And here, if you look at what's on the screen, so it's a little bit different on that part. That was after talking to Connie. I updated that a little bit. So this is what the latest email was, and it basically says, what I would change it to is just no jury trials for the foreseeable future, or just no jury trials in phase two. And then
I wouldn't even mention it. I don't know, why do we need to even mention jury trials on there?
We don't have to, I guess.
I'd just say, take
we don't have
that
to.
off.
I would agree with you on that, Brenda.
Just remove it completely
Yes.
until we know, then put it back in, but.
Yeah, well, it'll just be back to normal. Okay, but that gives us a good sense of what's going on. And, you know, just for people's information, the new courtroom has a capacity of about 100 people. You know, that'd be on the tight side, but it's about that much. So you can't really socially distance in that for that amount of potential jurors.
In my opinion, it would be almost impossible.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to force that on the public at this point. I just think it would be an extremely unwise and unsafe decision.
Right.
So.
Agree.
We don't have no control of, excuse me, Judge.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this, I'll take I don't know if people can see on the screen, the part that's highlighted, I'll just take that off if, you know, assuming that we're going to go with this kind of thought.
And even under the new normal, I don't know, court operations normal, we don't know.
Well, that's up to them. So, yeah.
That's not our decision to make.
Yeah. So I appreciate Judge Spears and
Connie
coming to take their time and share with us their thoughts. That's very good because even though the court is a separate agency from the county, there's a lot of the traffic in this building is because of court operations. And so that's very good to be aware of. So.
Is there anything else on there that Connie or Judge Spears sees as an issue that may be an issue with you of this being on this document?
No, I don't. I thought there was a question disposed by Mr. Gable, as I alluded to. He visited the court's office yesterday. So I had I had a hearing canceled, so
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
That was
Appreciate that.
much
Do you
appreciated.
need anything else from us?
I think we're
I
okay.
don't think so, unless you
Just-
have any other comments that you would like to add to this discussion as far as opening the courthouse.
Other than informal discussions I've had with at least 3 of you since mid-March, as it pertains to county and state offices that are non-judicial, it's up to the local authority.
As far as the building.
What you
Yeah.
decide to do and how you decide to do
Okay.
Yeah.
it, as long as it doesn't interfere or infringe on
Right.
state court operations.
And how we've been doing it has been fine with it being closed and, okay.
In fact, I appreciate the cooperation from this commission when this issue first broke on Sunday evening when I was talking to you,
Mhm.
Chairman.
We can't hear the judge. Can you have him on?
Oh, sorry.
One second.
Thanks, Troy.
I just made a comment, Commissioner Van Duzen, that a question was asked by Commissioner Hanton. How is the county proceeding in relation to court operations? And I said I appreciated the cooperation. And when I first spoke with Commissioner Hanton, when this thing broke in early March, it was a Sunday evening. And we appreciate in court services and the judges, the commission's cooperation and response the way we're handling this national emergency. So in essence, that's what I said, Commissioner, that you couldn't hear me, Commissioner Van Dusen.
All right.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for the judge or Connie or Jan, did you want to speak to anything? You're just here to listen? Okay. Okay, good.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Judge. All right. For the commissioners, do you have any questions, comments that you'd like to make in relation to this document?
Yes, I do. This is Myron. And I think you all got a copy of the concerns that came from Becky at the Extension Center. And it's a little bit different deal there because we got county, city, state employees all in this facility. And did you all get that email yesterday?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
All right, let's address some of these, should we? So that we have some direction. You know, with First District out there and then the Regional Extension Center, they're not going to be there for sure until the end of the month.
Yep.
I mean, that's a fact.
Yes.
And then going on, are we going to open up the entire complex? I don't know. I haven't had a chance. Becky, are you still on? Is Becky there yet?
She's been on. I have not actually heard her speak, though.
I wonder if there's anything even scheduled for the month of May. And, you know,
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I've been in contact with her. Until we open up the buildings, it's kind of hard to, you can't pick and choose. So it's either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. I guess more so is in all fairness to everyone. So she's sent
I can
me-
tell you right now that we have a cancellation June 12th through the 13th for the Junior Hereford Association. I believe she sent me emails on a couple others that were canceled. The Brookings Rabbit Club has canceled for June 6th.
And they're canceling on their own.
Yes, they are.
And of course, it has to be open for elections.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's the one thing we need to, here's just looking at, Commissioner Johnson, looking at the email from, and I did look at it before, I'm looking at it again, from Extension. It seems to me that they're kind of in sync. I mean, they're basically saying that we're not planning on doing anything for now, at least until May 31st. That's both with First District and Extension.
That's when they plan on reopening.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's their
Maybe.
That's their current plan,
Yeah.
you know.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so the only difference between, I think, the major difference between This is meant to be a guiding document that, this back to the new normal plan is meant to be a guiding document based on criteria as opposed to dates. And so for right now, more or less, I think the phase one and this one is kind of pretty much what extension's doing anyway. So they're closed to the public, basically. So that's, and in the meantime, we probably need to talk about, do we need to order, the plexiglass for that service counter, for example, and those kinds of things.
We did talk about that. Yes, that's on the
yeah,
list.
Okay, yeah, so
Yeah.
And they're also using a split shift, I'll call it, where part of the staff is working Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the others are Tuesday, Thursday, and so on and so forth. And I'm sure the question will be, can they continue doing that until the end of the month?
Well, in this, what it says about that in this particular, if you looked in the big pink box under county operation, it says continued use of remaining crisis sick leave, and that's what that is intended for. So I've heard it's, it's at different levels for different employees and departments as far as what the remaining sick leave is, but that's what that's intended to do, is to give them that opportunity.
But that was a maximum of 80 hours.
So that was
correct?
80 hours.
Okay.
Everybody's just got the 80 hours.
Yep.
I mean, we could, if this goes on and on, we could add to it, but right now I don't. So then the remaining sick leave would still, the verb, the wording there would still work, I think.
Well, as long as we remain closed to the public, I guess I don't,
There's less
once
risk.
their sick leave is done, I would say they need to come back and be back working again, because if we're closed to the public, their exposure is only going to be amongst them. We also have that in here where if you can wear your mask, or if you're 6 feet apart, just like the state now in the clerk court's office, they're all back full time, but they're 6 feet apart and they're doing their work. So at some point, everyone will need to come back and start being at work together, but you take your own personal precautions until we open up to the public. I don't see a large concern for that.
I mean, so the point is, if we like this kind of lay down, and I lined out the no jury trials thing. I just lined out that bullet altogether down in court. You can see it on the screen a little bit. It's kind of hard to, there's a red line through that. But if you like this document, then we should probably do a brief resolution, similar to the way the governor, in my opinion, similar to the way the governor did her executive order to implement her back to normal plan.
Yep.
This would be.
Becky's offering to call in, or we can call her.
Okay, either.
Okay.
We can
She
call
can-
her probably.
Yeah.
We'll
I
call
think
her. What number?
I see her on, I just can't hear her.
Her
So,
mic is not working.
yeah, apparently not. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Becky. Can you hear us?
I could hear you the whole time.
Good deal. Okay, so would you like to weigh in on this discussion also?
I think I pretty much said everything in the email. It's just, as far as opening up the offices, we're fine with. I just want to make sure we're all clear on what's happening out in the complex.
So are you getting a lot of requests to rent the building, or are they further out, or where are you at on that?
Right now, some have just flat canceled and they're going to do things next year. Some have actually kind of postponed, and some have called and said they're on a wait and see. So we're all over the board with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid though that when we do issue, the open, when we do open the complex, that's when I'm going to get the phone calls that are going to say, when can we get in? How soon can we get in?
Mm-hmm.
Right now I'm not, because we are closed.
Right.
But some of them are just on a wait and see basis.
Mm-hmm. And that would stand to reason. I guess that's probably when we do start opening all the facilities, it'll be the same for all of them. At that point, then, the public would be coming into all.
So,
But
go ahead.
go ahead, Commissioner Gable.
Yeah, just a quick question, Becky. So the soonest, if I understand the email, so the soonest the extension and for that matter, First District would open up would be May 31st anyway.
As far as Luke being here, yes.
Okay.
And the
Yeah.
SDSU and 4-H employees are on work at home until at least May 31st, so
Right.
at least.
At least, we don't know. I know that SDSU and our 4-H advisor is kind of going day to day, probably week by week.
Right, that could change.
So yeah, that could absolutely extend.
All right. Well, at least, I mean, yeah, status quo for now until we would open up to the public. We aren't going to allow any sort of events out there. Otherwise, how do you start and stop on that?
Well, I don't have events now. Everything I've got as far as events is they've been canceled now for the most part up until mid-May. But I do have people who still are holding graduation receptions and they've rented tables and chairs. I've had some cancel because they've rescheduled, but I have other ones that still want them because they're still holding some sort of reception. Because some graduations are taking place in the small towns. I don't know if you've heard that or not.
I
Yeah,
guess
I think-
something like that, it's, yeah.
Well, I
I
mean,
think-
that's a concentration of people. So are those, do they have the event scheduled or are they just kind of, they're renting the stuff and just kind of hoping to schedule it?
They're not, are you talking about the receptions?
Yeah.
Okay, because I can't hear you very well. The receptions are not here,
No, they're at their homes. They
Oh,
just.
they're
oh,
at
okay,
their-
okay.
they're at their
All right.
home.
All right, I get it. Sorry.
but they're renting our tables and our chairs for their event.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Um,
I get it.
I don't know.
and I think if it's all right with you, we'd like to still allow them to do that.
Yeah, because they only have 1 or 2 people come and typically the maintenance staff has it all lined up and they can organize it. You only have one person picking
Right.
up.
A lot of times they bring their own people to do the heavy lifting. So there's not many people here and everybody has made such adjustments to their lifestyle, and I hate to not have these available for them.
Well, yeah, no, I guess.
Can we be sure that they can be disinfected prior? So when they leave, they are disinfected, and when they come back, they are disinfected again, you know, just for safety.
Yep, I was, yeah, kind of thinking Cindy was the
Good
same.
question.
Steve,
We got a C3 machine, we can spray them down.
okay. Steve says they do have the C3 equipment that we can spray them down before and after, so that we
Good.
can arrange to do that.
And
so.
then, you know, it's when people actually have these functions at their home, this plan says we encourage them to socially distance in those situations. So,
What they do in their home, we have no control.
yeah.
Right.
Just encouraging.
So, but I would say yes, let them rent those tables and chairs.
Okay.
Unless the rest of the
Vicky?
commission,
Yeah, I don't know if we, and I don't, that level of detail, I don't know. That's not really for this document, but yeah, seems reasonable to me, so.
any other commissioners have any comments, concerns on that issue?
There was a question, Becky, in reference to face masks. Do you have some signage out there that says you have to have a face mask to come in to the
We-
facility, or explain
See,
that?
I don't have anything that says that now. What we have here is all the signage that was issued to all the county offices prior to the closing.
Okay.
We have those, obviously signs can be created, but we just have ones that address, it basically says, if you have a fever, cough, shortness of breath, or have been exposed or have a weak immune system, stop, do not enter. Those are the ones that we had prior to the closing. And I guess I would probably suggest we still post those types of signs.
Yes, until we open up.
I
definitely.
certainly would agree with that.
Also, so like with Cindy and these individuals, there are times you maybe have to go and sign documents or have somebody get a document. The offices here have been taking precautions and are wearing a mask when they interact with the public. Are you guys doing that as well?
We really haven't had much of that.
Okay.
We have a Dropbox and a lot of the documents can just be dropped in there. We haven't had, I think I've had one request for face-to-face,
Okay,
and it was just to hand something over.
okay.
I know the treasurer's office and my office have been gloved and masked if we had to go wait on somebody.
Yeah, just for an extra precaution.
Well, and we do have masks and we do have adequate space between the counter and our working space, so that's not a concern.
Okay.
I guess our biggest concern is the lack of staff. If customers are expecting our office to be open, are they expecting to see two people that aren't here? And then the complex, as far as availability of use of the complex. Those would be our biggest concerns.
Right. And when we get to that point, we'll definitely let everyone know, you know, when we're going to open up, everyone will be advised on that. We're not just going to leave you in the dark. There'll be preparation. That's where we have this phase 1, 2, and 3. There's certain criteria that needs to be taken yet and done before we would feel comfortable opening the buildings to the public.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Just
go ahead.
So the idea here is, you know, I think the discussion for the extension center is good. I don't know if we want to put that level of detail on this particular thing. But if we like this, I picture we'd probably have to tweak it almost every week a little bit based on this. And then, but I do think we probably need to think about a resolution to say this is what we're going to do. But that's if people, I guess I'd be curious if anybody else sees anything that might need to be tweaked, similar to the way we just lined through the jury trials on phase 2. Any other?
I would also
thoughts?
say to share this with the department heads maybe and just get some of their perspectives. And then before we would adopt a resolution, I don't know, Cindy, what are your thoughts?
I think they'd appreciate seeing what you have in mind.
Yeah, because that's, I mean, that's okay. So I guess I guess that's fine.
I know there are some department heads that do still have some concerns about opening to the public. Great concerns.
Well, I think that's then maybe the key thing to think about here is criteria. I mean, a couple of things, I really think we need to have this kind of a thing out there sooner than later, but I understand, you know, and we picture tweaking this every week. But there's a couple, you know, right now, phase 1 is pretty similar to the way it is right now, except that we're making sure that we have the stuff on order. Yeah, other than that, it's pretty much the same as what we're actually doing. So I guess it'd be okay to wait a week. I mean, it just means that's going to last a little longer.
Well, there are at least 2 offices that I can think of who, some customers are not stopped at the front counter. They have access to files in 2 different offices.
Yeah.
My offices, you know, I've got the counter,
Right.
customers are not, there's nothing for a customer to come back,
Well-
and also the treasurer's office, but 2 other offices on this floor
Yeah.
have files that they make available
And,
to the public.
You know, maybe it's like say when you go get a pizza at the gas station, now that you can't go get your own slice of pizza, somebody has to go get it for you. You know, it could be kind of like that, where somebody in the office, you know, they have to set an internal office policy. I don't know
Right.
if we need to have that, similar to the discussion about the extension center. Do we need to have those separate internal office policies?
I think
on this?
each office is unique and individual as to how they operate.
Yeah,
And so some of those things,
I don't think that's precluding, this would not preclude that. That'd be wise if they work something out. On the other hand, if, you know, since it's phase 1 is essentially the same as now, I would not be opposed to waiting a week. The other thing is, just to go over some things, why I think this is important though is, you know, we have to be managing, especially, and be very careful with this going before we go to phase 2, especially with the election coming up. You know, we want to prevent infection within the employees of the courthouse, because that would, if we had that problem, that's going to be a bit of a delay, at least a minimum a couple of days, maybe depending on the office affected, it could delay things for a couple of weeks.
Correct.
Or you know, put a snag in things for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then we think we've done a pretty good job of making all the services, all the county services available to the public without having to visit the courthouse. And I know that means a lot of phone calls for our employees, for the departments, that they're trying to field phone calls all the time, and that's a challenge. But but we've still been able to, I think, meet most of the needs out there, the vast majority.
It shows how outdated our phone system
Yeah, so
is.
that's
so
something we need
so we're getting,
probably look at.
so voicemail, for example.
Our phones are inundated that
So,
day.
and then we
I know
we
that
also,
that's a concern for many of our offices too. We need to work on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't, and then the other thing is, and you heard the court wants us to go slow as well. So, so even for phase 2, for them, when the courthouse is going to be basically open to the public with social distancing, they're saying we're still not planning, because you can't socially distance in jury trials in particular, they're still not planning to do it until things are truly back to normal. So I guess for now, if this is just going to be discussion point, I prepared a draft resolution that just basically says, we don't have to do it this week, that just basically says, we're going to do this plan and it will be updated from time to time. I highlighted up in the upper right-hand corner to expect updates. So very similar to the state's back to normal plan. You know, the resolution will refer people to this, which we keep updated on the county website. So, but it's mostly, it's mostly dialogue within the county departments, and, but it helps the public to be aware of what's going on. And then,
what to expect.
yeah, and then I think the big thing that I would picture that we have to watch very closely is if the state has particular criteria that they recommend, having some things that have to do with the spread. So right now we want to see a 14-day trend, downward trend in new cases. I mean, that's kind of the going criterion for most things for the back to new normal, or the back to normal plan from the state. So we'd want to be watching that closely, and what if they modify that criterion, or you know, add something new in that vein. So.
Right. Any other commissioners have any comments about this document? If you've had a chance to look it over, or something you could see we should add, or?
I would have a question of Steve. I would have a question for Steve. What's the time frame for making the rest of the courthouse something like the treasurer's office with the plexiglass up and in place?
Go and take the mic.
I guess currently right now in the treasurer's office, all the plexiglass is up. It would be the auditor's office, registered deeds, equalization.
Extension.
Extension that would need to get put up at this present time. And I do know that they are getting material for that, getting ready for the plexiglass. So that, the other thing is probably the biggest one is going to be getting the hand sanitizer and so that currently right now. It's been ordered probably close to 3 to 5 weeks ago, and still on back order. It's probably the biggest issue. We have dispensers, we just don't have material to put it all in.
So the stuff that's being made locally at LATI and Glacier
We
Lakes.
could try to turn around and use that like it is. They do have some hand pumps that the emergency management had purchased, but to get it out publicly in spots and so that the public could be able to utilize it would probably be the biggest thing.
Yeah, it is more of a liquid solution that doesn't work in those.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
it's
so
a liquid. It don't,
it's
it don't work like the foaming stuff and so that. I do know that they have been testing it for it, and supposedly, I guess they're getting it to work on a couple things on the hand pumps. But I'll have to check. I know that they are reusing a couple bags that were empty from the automatic hand sanitizers. So that, and that's what I would like to try to get around, would be is the automatic ones. So that placed in various places in the courthouse. So.
Right. So until we get some of these measures in place, we're just not ready to, to open. And
effectively we're in phase 1 of this one already. I mean,
right.
Yeah. So
it just probably right now the biggest criteria, like I said, is finishing up the shields in front of the counters, and the other thing would be biggest one is the hand sanitizers. So that we can mark the floors and spots. So that maybe we'll have to X mark spot that people have to stand on those spots before they can move to another spot.
Right.
Well, that's part of, it has to be ready for phase 2. I mean, that's kind of, the indicators on the floor, like you have to be standing on an X
And we were figuring out maximum capacity in those, in the different offices of where those, how many can actually be standing there at a time, and then, you know, to put marks on the floor for people who are waiting. So we are looking at all that.
So, Madam Chair, if I could,
Yes.
sorry to talk so much, but so what I would picture, like, if once we say this is our plan, maybe, yeah, and I know we want to give the department heads a look at it, and then maybe do a resolution. And we'll probably still be in phase one for, I would picture, and I know there might be other opinions out there, for at least a few more weeks, but as we go through this, we're going to be tweaking both the measures taken boxes, I would imagine, and then the implementation criteria. And then we all have to kind of feel comfortable that we meet those criteria before we go into the next phase. So, and that would be kind of the key parts of the discussion as we go through this, in my opinion.
Lee, this is Jamie. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, who is this?
JT.
Jamie.
Yep, go ahead.
Jamie.
Oh, Jamie.
Yeah,
I thought it was JT.
Jamie.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Say on phase 2 at the bottom, would there be any objection to encouraging the public to wear masks prior to enter the building? I can protect the public infrastructure as far as our offices,
Yeah,
but
I think we
would
could add
we
that.
want to ask?
Yeah, we could either add that to either county operations or county, or, yeah, I think that would fit better in the county operations part. Just ask
Okay.
public.
Can't require
Answering,
to ask.
But encourage,
Encourage,
ask,
yeah.
encourage.
just to simply ask or encourage upon entrance. Probably about a 2-week window on a resource that I've been using on the pump hand sanitizer that does come out in the foamy style. If there's any answers to Steve there, because I know he's been waiting for quite a while, but I'm looking at ordering some more of that, but the supplier here locally is about a 10 day to 2-week window before I can get my hands on some more possibly.
And when you say able to get some, like, how much of a quantity can we get, and then how long does that last?
Correct, you know, and we'd have to do some exploratory stuff with Steve there as far as refilling those small milliliter bags in the automatic dispenser ones, if there's a way to do that, but that's further to be looked at. Do a couple of little test and trial and error type things, but we believe it's doable. But I know they're looking at getting in a pallet but of that hand sanitizer, and I could probably get my, depending on how far it would go in the public, if we're thinking long term, I think it should be available according to the supplier, probably on a monthly basis. She's going to try and keep on to it, and it sounds like her supplier has so far the need.
Okay. All right. Well, you and Steve, you guys will work together about trying to
Yep.
coordinate with that.
This is Becky.
Yes, Becky.
We ordered hand sanitizer for our office back on March 17th. We still do not have it.
Yeah, that is an issue.
Yeah, Becky, that's about the same way that goes on here. The suppliers, it's all back ordered, and we don't know exactly how long it will be, so.
So with that, as you can all see, that's part of the criteria in phase 1. So until those things are on hand and we have enough, we have to take that into consideration as where we would move then to phase 2.
So, I mean, we're not going to do a resolution this week, Madam Chair, but I'm curious what the other commissioners think. I mean, is this kind of headed in the right direction for us to kind of work through these phases? And
Yeah, I think I like the plan. It's an ever-changing plan. It's rapidly evolving. And so to say a couple weeks, you know, I don't know. It's day to day right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And that changes at the state level. You know, the city's beginning to open up some of their infrastructure on a limited basis as well. So I think we just got to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on. Jamie, is there any way to get sanitizer through some of the other entities that are providing it locally?
I'm still resourcing some more, but I have not heard back from them yet, Troy. But the
Okay.
one I'm using right now had a very good supply, but it depleted real quick, but they actually ordered a pallet, and I'm gonna say probably 70 cases of 4 gallon or 1 gallon per case. But
Okay.
as it stands right now, but if the further the word gets out, the faster it goes.
Yeah, and I know that they had set some aside for responders and public infrastructure entities, but I wasn't sure if we had obtained any of that at the county level.
Just small quantities for our own.
Okay, thank you.
Otherwise, it's been the ethanol-based ones that we've been getting.
Okay.
All right.
So.
Any
so-
other comments from anyone else that hasn't
So-
spoken?
so
or-
Yeah, so Madam Chair, just, so I'd picture maybe next week we do a resolution to say this is the plan and then we continually tweak it. But in the meantime, let's have the departments
Yes.
take a look.
Yep,
See what
I'd
they
say forward that on to them, let them take a look. Then maybe we can get together with them, meet with them.
Yeah, and
Part
we
of that was going to be some training, staff orientation on some of this, so.
could, and then I'll make the updates that, so Jamie
Yep.
suggested one and then take the jury trial thing off there and send out a fresh version
Yes.
for everybody. So,
Yep, sounds good. And then we'll let everyone look and then encourage them to get a little feedback as well. All right, so we have one more item then in relation to the welfare office. That the welfare director will be in office on Monday, May 11th. I guess the hours, I just thought 8 to 4. I don't know what the rest of you think.
I'll chime in on that. I think, we have to consider it, and Charlie, I know you've chimed in on this before. I already got a text from Sarah, and she wasn't aware that we were talking about changing hours, and her temp isn't back on the job yet. And so if we start at 8, here's her situation. Her daycare is from 9 to 5 or whatever. And so she'd have to take a day or an hour of vacation every morning from 8 to 9 and before daycare, unless she can get that changed. She didn't know if she could or not. But on the other hand, I know, and I kind of have to agree with her. I would be willing to bet that most of those people that are using the welfare office aren't going to be around at 8 o'clock in the morning. I know that it's nice to have all the offices open at 8 o'clock in the morning, but if there's not going to be anybody there, if there's no demand for it, and we have to work with a 7-hour day instead of an 8-hour day, the 8 to 9 hour would be my choice of not having someone there. That's just my thoughts.
I guess I don't know. We don't know that. I mean, it's just been 9 for a long time. We don't make concessions for any other employees to work around their daycare. I mean, they are all expected to be here from 8 to 5. They
I
have
don't
to
think
make.
we're making concessions for the employee, but it's the people that are utilizing that office. I know Hari has chimed in on this many times. He said those people aren't out of bed by 10 o'clock in the morning. They're not going to be there at 8. And we're still working with a person that isn't a 40-hour-a-week contract. So
Right. Well, she would be closed over the noon hour. Obviously, she'll have to take a lunch hour. So it'd be closed then from 12 to 1 for her to take her lunch. So that part of it, she still would be within her, it would be part-time still.
I agree with Myron. I think that if we're going to do this, this is not something that we need to spring on or like this. We need to have further discussions to decide what hours we want that office open. And that needs to involve her. So I agree, Myron. I think that we keep the hours the way they are. The way that they are.
I personally would rather work from 8 to 4, so I've got more time in the evening to do my personal things. But with the clientele and having some experience, with some of the clientele that would be going up there, I would feel 9 is more, 9 to 5 would be better than 8 to 4.
If I could, Madam Chair, just add in, I guess when you're looking at the clientele, I guess I have to say that it's 9 to 5 kind of makes more sense. But the other thing is, it's not really a COVID item, it's more of a general thing in this case. So if we want to have the discussion or, deal with it, and I guess deal with this issue, then let's put it on the agenda as its own thing.
Right. I guess I don't like stereotyping people. I don't like us saying those kinds of people. I think that's totally wrong. And let's just stick to the hours of the office and not the people that you guys are stereotyping. So, okay, basically then what we're going to say, which we do have the ability to say, is Sarah will be back in the office Monday, May 11th, and put it on the agenda for next week on the hours. I guess right now it remains what it is.
And
Will be, yes, but we'll be in the order or in the office on May 11th, but we don't meet until the 12th.
Right, she'll just
So
have
when is
normal
she gonna
hours.
come in
She'll
on-
just have,
When is she gonna come in on Monday morning?
she'll,
on the 11th?
normal hours right now. It's not changed because we got to put it on the agenda to have that discussion. So it would remain still Monday. It would be 9 to 5 at this point. We're just discussing she'll be in the office Monday, May 11th, because we are, that is our duty to do on appointed officials. So anyway, I guess she'll be back in on May 11th, normal hours at this point. So do we need to make a motion to that?
Does, I don't, do we, I mean, as far as her.
You're not
her-
changing anything.
If we're not changing it.
She's not going to be teleworking anymore. That was part of, in our personnel policy.
I guess if,
Did you take action to authorize you to work from
Yeah.
home?
yeah.
I think we
Yeah, we
did.
did, because that's in the policy, is that because she's an appointed department head, but that's something that
We have to
commissioners
take
have to do.
action.
So I
now.
guess, do we need to rescind that now, or is that what we're saying? I mean.
Yeah,
Just direct.
just directive.
direct, okay.
I don't.
Commissioner directive that, yeah, since she's going to be in the office alone, she can come back in Monday, May 11th.
Cindy, is this something that we could make a decision on today, or is this something that has to be publicized in the minutes?
Well,
Not
pretty
on,
much lost on it, to tell you the truth.
not
I'm
on,
sure what you need to do.
I don't know, Terry, you want to help us? Not on the fact that she's coming back to work, on changing the hours, then we need to put that on the agenda.
Yeah, that would need to be.
Yeah, that needs to go on the
That would need
agenda.
to be on the agenda. Going to change the hours of operation of the office itself. As far as her returning to work from working at home, that's the part I don't know.
I don't know, Terry?
Well, it seems to me that,
More complicated. You're the boss, you told her to come back to work, it'll be peaceful.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
all
Okay.
right.
No, all right, I think we're okay.
Okay, so are we done with all that discussion then? Any other COVID-related discussion that we have?
Do you, Madam Chair, maybe, do you want to talk about any of the mail-in ballots and not putting your driver's license in and things like that? Or do you want to discuss any of those issues?
We did that while you were trying to get the machine back.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had that discussion.
Yeah.
We are, like I said, if we have an application come in that's lacking something, a signature or a copy of a driver's license, we will try to contact that person by phone. We'll ask them if it's possible for them to come to the courthouse to sign the document. We'll meet them at the back door, gloved and masked, to get it done. And we'll also give them the opportunity to either text the copy of their driver's license or email it. And those two forms of media have been working really well for the things that we are needing. Every once in a while, we just have to send the application back out and say, we send a letter with it saying what's missing, what we need. We try to send a self-addressed stamped envelope with it, so it's easier for the voter to get it back to us the second time. And then also, some of the ballots are coming back and they're not being signed on the back side. If we run into that problem, we will call the voter and ask them if they could come to the south side of the courthouse, and we'll get that signature.
So that's
And we're
signing
also-
the envelope. That's signing the
I think
envelope.
Becky. And we're also, for some of those problem ones, if they've got to come to the courthouse and they haven't voted yet, we are asking them if they just want to cast their ballot while they're here. Maybe a dozen people have taken advantage of that
Yeah, okay.
opportunity. We are not getting a lot of calls asking when we're going to be back open to the public. I
So-
will say that.
Okay, thank you. And so people don't need to put their actual driver's license in.
No, but some people do not have copy machines. They have no access. They have nobody to help them with that. So we have received several driver's licenses in the mail, which when we send back their ballot, we do send their driver's license back with the ballot. Some people are very trusting.
Okay. Well,
And I don't know if you heard me say, but we, after I sent the PSA out on what amount of postage is needed on your ballot to mail it back, we received 3 different envelopes with $2 each in them from couples who had not put enough postage on their ballots. So
Very
they
nice,
felt
yeah.
bad about it. It's the envelope itself is light enough so that a regular postage stamp would be satisfactory, but it's because of the oversize of the envelope, and that's where the extra cost comes in. So,
Hey, Sandy,
and
I
we
have-
are telling people if they want to save on the cost of mailing the ballot back, they can drop it into the lock box on the south side of the courthouse, which we continually check throughout the day for applications and for returned ballots, and also for the treasurer's office is still using it for motor vehicle things also.
Cindy, just to remind folks too, that June 2nd, the polls will also be open as well.
Yes, we've had that question asked. Well, do I have to send this back in? Do I have to vote by mail? And we'll tell them, no, absolutely not. Every normal polling place will be open on June 2nd. But the fact that we've had 2,000 ballots go out, I'm assuming it's going to cut down on the traffic at the polls, which was the intent.
Yeah, to allow for better social distancing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And that's what the Secretary of State's message was vote by mail if you can.
correct, yes.
That's the reason that they mailed them out, to
Right.
encourage.
And then to save postage, people can drop them, use the drop box behind the
Yeah.
courthouse as well.
Yes,
So,
yep.
It is secure, so that might be
Yes,
some of
it
their,
is a secure lockbox.
yeah, that might be some of their
Okay, thank
reasoning.
you. Thanks for repeating yourself. Sorry, I wasn't.
No,
You were kind of busy.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 16, do we have anything, discussion or possible action regarding Memorial Park campground operations? Steve, do you have any updates or anything?
From the update of what the campground managers had said, everything went pretty good this weekend. There wasn't a lot of people, but there was a few out there. I do know that the state parks, though, I think we're something like 75 to 80% full. But ours was not as much. The biggest issue was somebody's dog kept getting loose and running around.
Well, that sounds good then.
Hopefully it was wearing a mask.
See,
All
I'll check.
right,
You go.
item number 17, action, that was it? You're good? Okay. Item number 17, action to approve claims for payment. Sandy?
No claims today. Our normal claim paying day is next Tuesday, and we are working on that.
All right, how about 18, to approve automatic budget supplements?
None today.
Personnel changes, we have a few of them.
The one is not signed, but it's because it has been approved and we will get the signatures in place. The first one is the payroll officer in the auditor's office is due an anniversary step increase from step 13 to 14. She'll go to $22.43 per hour. Normally the policy says that department heads should submit these at least a month ahead. So that's why I'm bringing this one now. Doesn't take effect till June 1st, and the other one is, and that's Jody Pearson. The other one is Sandy Thee in the treasurer's office. She is a clerk, do a step increase to step 9, $19.19 per hour, and that's effective May 1st.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Van
Second.
Duzen, second by Gable. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Commissioner Waterman, were you going to vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen,
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item number 20, action to approve travel requests. Probably don't have any of those.
None of those.
Moving on to public notices, item number 21, probably none of those. There will be a candidate forum. Is that tomorrow night
Tomorrow night,
virtually?
yeah.
You want to give a little update on that or how people can?
Sure,
tune
it'll be
into that?
on, Gov TV if you live in the city of Watertown. It's also going to be on the Watertown Chamber of Commerce Facebook page. It will begin with Codington County District 2 commissioners and challengers at 6 o'clock, followed by District 4. And then the legislative districts to follow about 7, I believe. So either online at the Chamber of Commerce Facebook page or Gov TV beginning at 6. And that's going to take place at the Watertown City Hall, but they are not opening that up to the public, of course. So.
All right.
Oh, say that site again. Troy, is the Watertown Chamber of Commerce Facebook. What?
That's correct. Yep, that's correct, Myron. Watertown Chamber of Commerce Facebook page. Questions for the candidates can be directed to tim@watertownsd.com. tim@watertownsd.com. If you have a question for anybody that's participating in that forum, it will be moderated by Roger Whittle. So that's where we're at.
All right. Very good. Item number 20.
6 p.m.
6 o'clock tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, that's 6 p.m., right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Item number 22, old business. Do we have any old business?
I have a little bit. This is, we got another FEMA reimbursement for the 2019 Blizzard flood event. Total payment was $16,772.01. And with the help of Sherry from the emergency management, she broke that down for me. $327.51 was for the sheriff's office. $1,040.55 was for the government buildings maintenance costs. And then the $15,403.95 was for the emergency management office. So we've received just approximately $30,000 in reimbursement so far for those, for that event. The highway, I believe, received the most of the first check.
On roads.
Received an interesting picture here from Rick.
Oh, you did get it?
Did you receive it?
Let's see.
Oh, man. Might be worth putting on the screen.
Let me see if I can find
And who knows, he was
in
on a
Leola-
township road.
It was Leola Township.
He was on a township road before that and then got stuck on a county.
it. Ooh, okay.
Can you put it up?
Yeah, give me a minute.
Yeah.
I'll share it.
Oh, jeepers.
Yeah.
That's the tow truck.
Yeah, oh,
Is that
wow,
a,
that's
There you go.
That's a soft road.
oh, wind energy. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what a lot of them are looking like. Unfortunately, it is a mess out there.
That's a bad day.
Mhm.
Well, we're going to see more of that
Yeah, with
as
those,
time goes on because of the size of the equipment also.
yeah,
Yeah,
this is Leola.
until,
Okay.
yeah, until these roads firm up, this is gonna be, they said they're like pudding.
Yeah.
All right, this might go under old business. I'm just going to just put it out there for individuals that are wanting assistance with free deliveries and necessities of essential goods. There is a phone number that first they place their order for people that will deliver those items to them. There's a group of individual volunteers. So they call the store, purchase their order, find out the time and date of when the pickup can be. Then they call this number, 237-7234 to request a COVID helper to help with deliveries. And there's also a COVID-19 hotline. This is for medical questions relating to COVID-19. And that phone number is 753-1408. And also, if there's any other issues that come up, please remember that 211 is another resource for people to be able to call into, and they will help them as well. Item number 23, new business. Cindy, what about this? Is this something we need to do? Something like that, Henry, and that bond? What's?
I don't believe we need to do anything until we're approached, but I mean, this board has got to make a decision on whether or not, I believe we did this for LATI several years ago, and I believe it's.
We were just a pass. No, we
Not even a
actually.
pass-through. They're using our, is it our credit rating?
The Great Plains.
Our-
Yeah.
Yes, our bond rating.
Yeah, I think we need I would like maybe Mr. Meyer Henry or somebody to explain it to us,
explain.
because
Yes, definitely.
my concern would be that, how does this affect us in the future if we decide we have to build a thing like
How long,
a
yes,
jail?
how long is this in
Yeah.
effect? You're right.
Does it tie it up?
Yeah,
Okay.
so apparently
Yes.
there's a statutory limitation on
Okay.
bonding.
But it would be
authorities.
good to hear it from the experts.
Yeah, so maybe
Yeah.
we could have him call in and
Yes.
because so do you want to,
We have not been, I'm not gonna have time.
I mean, no, just to reply to, or I can reply to him and just say.
I don't even have a contact.
Okay.
Nobody's contacted me other
Oh, so
than,
did I forward you that email?
you forwarded.
Yeah.
it,
Okay.
Yeah.
So they must have
Sorry.
contacted you?
Well, I think he sent it to all of us. I think Mr.
Okay.
Meyer Henry sent it to
Yeah,
all his
I-
commissioners with whatever email he had. And so I just forwarded it to Cindy and to Becky.
Okay.
But I can give him a call and say, would you want to, we need to understand this better. And
Right.
you want to call in, put you on maybe we could
I mean,
just
it's-
tentatively plan to put him on the agenda next week.
Yeah, I suppose
And-
you can put that down if he's able to zoom in or
Yeah.
not. I guess just have it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
the other new business item, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just next week on the agenda, we have the Boys and Girls Club probably coming in to ask us to reauthorize the grant application for the deflection coordinator or the diversion coordinator over at the Boys and Girls Club, which was part of the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative, so that it's time to reapply for that grant. And so, and as with grants, typically, it affects us. We are kind of the pass through, but we're also doing a lot of the billing. So in the auditor's office with that particular grant. So, so we just need to basically renew that. That's probably in for next week.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Van Duzen, any old or new business or anything for the open?
Oh, I have nothing further. I'm good.
I do for the open.
Okay.
I'd just like to commend Radishad family. I don't know how many of you were able to attend the fireworks on Saturday night, but it's a bright spot in kind of a dark era right now, and it was a very, very well done. And it's good to have people in our community. I know that they come to us year after year and ask for permission to do this particular program, and we've always granted it. And here's an opportunity to see what they do. And just from the county, thank you to the Radishad family.
Right, I'd echo that. Usually it's close to my backyard. I don't have to drive, but I did drive there to watch, and it was a very nice gesture, and it made an opportunity for more people to be able to view that. So that was a very good thing. Anyone else have anything for the open? Do we have a need for an executive session, anyone? I don't think so. All right, then I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Move and approve. Move to
Second.
adjourn.
Okay, we got a motion by Johnson, who seconded,
Charles.
Commissioner Waterman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Duzen.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, guys. And you can chime in. I guess sometimes if